Welcome to Distance Dialogue. On behalf of WVU Online, I'm Dr. Lee Silverman. Joining me representing our student ambassadors is Dr. Angie Milliron. Presenting today's topic, the power of relationships with both self and others, is Joy Klohonatz. Joy has been in the people business for over 40 years. The past 20 have been as an independent business owner, speaking and training people all over the world on the power of gratitude and appreciation, which will lead to strong relationships. She has won many awards and knows any business would not be a business without the people to support it. She coaches her clients to keep their clients and does this by sharing tools that are simple, timeless, and impactful. Joy helps them stay at the top of their clients' minds by leaving a positive impression and feels this concept is huge in employee retention as well. Thanks for being with us, Joy. I understand you have some slides to share, and then we will have some questions our students submitted for you.
Absolutely. Well, thank you so much. Tonight, I'm so proud to be here. And Lee, thank you. And Angie, nice to meet you as well. And I love speaking on this topic because I think it's so important in today's world that we understand how important it is to keep the human connection and the relationships going. And like you say, yes, I do have some slides I want to show you. And I want to start by just saying that relationship marketing, gratitude, and appreciation are becoming real buzzwords in the marketplace today in businesses. And more business professionals are realizing that they need to implement more of this into their business. So with that said, let me share with you a couple of slides. And these slides are really kind of designed to show you why it's important to have relationships and strong relationships. So let me just pull these up here and kind of go through them real quick. As we know, the world has changed how we communicate today. People have become technology has made it a lot easier to stay in touch. However, people are less connected today than they ever were before because of technology. For each month that you don't communicate with a customer or a client, you lose 10% of your influence. 80% of your company's future revenue will come from 20% of your current clients and customers. This one really surprised me a little bit because there's so much of this out here, but 74% of consumers feel loyalty is about feeling understood and valued instead of discounts and perks. 80% of home buyers after 18 months do not remember their realtor's name. And this is kind of a fun one. I present to realtors all over the place, and the first time I presented this statistic, I thought, oh my gosh, they're going to hate me. They're never going to ask me to come back again. But on what exactly happened is everybody shook their head yes. They know that. So, they've lost the relationship with somebody they had a very strong relationship to begin with. The number one most effective form of communication is a written thank you, yet only 3% of business professionals do anything after the transaction. And I love this pie chart. Why clients leave. And I think a lot of times we think it's all about price and dissatisfaction, but it's really 68% because of perceived indifference. Means that they feel that you really don't care about them. You only cared basically about their money. So if you want to talk retention for a minute, it's 5 times more expensive to acquire a new customer than keeping a current one. However, with a 5% improvement in customer retention, it increases profitability an average of 75%. And this one, I'd love to share this because I think we think that communicating with our clients and customers by email is really good. Yes, it's a touch point. However, 88% of emails are never opened. 84% of Facebook posts are never seen. Yet, 78% of direct mail is opened, whether it's junk or whether it's not. And a tangible greeting card or a note has a 100% open rate. So with all that said, the one common denominator for success in life is the relationship we have with people. If people feel important, valued, and appreciated, they will be more loyal to you and to your business. And I always like to end up by saying appreciation will appreciate. So, like I said, I use these a lot, and every time I use them, people are just like, "Oh my gosh, is this for real?" So, with that said, I know you guys have a lot of questions. I'll be glad to answer whatever I can for you.
Well, thank you, number one, for that. And even what you just said about taking the time to write that thank you note or to make something that's physically tangible, I resonated with that because I had a friend who would send thank you notes after we get together. It's like, oh, that's so nice. It's maybe even a little bit old fashioned, but it really stuck with me. And then I started doing that too for other people. So I see that it's really a special touch and it's memorable. So
Yes, absolutely. Nobody's ever not going to appreciate a card to mail.
Yeah.
Mm-hmm.
Well, as we said, several students did submit questions for today, and I'd like to begin by asking you our first one, if I may. What strategies do you recommend for building strong relationships from scratch?
Well, I think probably the first one I'm going to tell you is to be genuine, and authentic. People can read through that whether we realize it or not sometimes. And I think the second thing I'm going to say is listen intently and show real interest. I mean, sometimes we're so focused on we hear, but we're already trying to solve the problem or kind of get ready to comment back instead of really listening to the person. If from scratch also, if you're doing like a business, share your goals, have clear objectives, and make sure you share them with the people so that they can be a part of the whole process as well. And of course, show appreciation. You'll hear that many times because I think that's such a big piece of it. Encourage feedback and always do what you're supposed to do, what you say you're going to do, whether that comes in, whatever form it comes in, or whether it's follow up. People really respect that and they remember it. So starting from scratch, be yourself and just continue to, value what they have to say.
That's excellent advice. Thank you for that. Itch, would you like to share some of the additional student questions?
Absolutely. It's been so nice to meet you this afternoon, Joy. And I bring some questions from our students. And the first one is, how do relationships influence career growth and opportunities?
Well, it's all about networking. It's about who it's about it's about getting yourself out there and letting people get to know you, because you're going to hear this many times in businesses. People will do business with those they know, like, and trust. You can't trust them without having relationships to begin with. And having those relationships are going to really open up opportunities, whether they be job related or whether they be valuable advice, whatever, just having those opportunities. Network now. Seek out opportunities to get involved and for people to get to know you more. I also like to always tell people, build those connections whenever you can. Volunteer as much as you can. Volunteerism is something that really takes a person and puts them in a different place when it comes to relationships, because you're doing it for somebody else. It's not about you. Because I think sometimes it's very hard to distinguish, okay, are they being nice? Or are they doing this because of something they want? When you volunteer, it's about volunteering, and it just opens up a whole lot of doors. And I'd suggest also to surround yourself with positive people, positivity, support, and encouragement. It's kind of like you become who you hang around with, and people can see that. And of course, always showing gratitude is just something will always set you apart.
I know volunteering makes me feel better about who I am and how I can help my community. I think that's great advice you just gave. Next question, how do you foresee the role of relationships evolving with the rise of digital communications?
Well, you saw I started with my first slide, right? And I mean, and I think it's even more important because of AI. AI is bringing something to the marketplace which can be good or it can be bad, in the sense of people really knowing whether what they're being told or who they're talking to and what's being said is real or not. You don't know anymore because of the technology of the AI. So understanding the power of human connection and scheduling face-to-face opportunities, take those face-to-face coffee chats, take those, in the workplace, make it a point to, make sure you have face-to-face time with people so that they can really see you and you can really see them. Plan events. So if you're in a workplace, plan events that can encourage feedback. More and more. Remember how the days, Lee, I'm sure you might remember these days where it was like Dress Down Friday, or it was like Pizza Taco Tuesday. It was something when we were in the workplace and we did those kind of things, but it helped people get to know each other better. And it was just a connection that you still need to have. You have to be empathetic with people too. And sometimes you can't read that in the technology world. You can't read between the lines of what is really going on with people. And you can only do that when you're face to face or when you talk to them or you communicate in some way that's beyond the world of technology.
If only there was a font that conveyed sarcasm or conveyed true excitement. Sometimes we're sold out short by typography. But,
I know. We got emojis though, but that does.
We do. They mean different things to different generations too. So be careful what you say.
That's very true. That's very true.
And how do you measure the strength of success or success of a relationship?
I think one of the biggest measurements is how well they communicate with you. Are they open, or is it like real and open communication? And I think you can tell sometimes with that. I think in the workplace, client retention, you can look at your numbers and see where your retention is there. And I think sometimes when you hear good feedback, that's going to kind of let you know that, okay, they really do trust and I've done a good job and they're giving me great feedback. And I think a big one is acceptance of change. Every place all the time is changing. And how do people perceive that? How are they accepting that? Are they comfortable knowing that whatever change is coming about, that they're comfortable with you enough and have a good relationship with you enough to know that it's going to be okay? We got to just kind of work through this. We got to get through it. It's going to be okay. I have to read you something I found recently I thought was real interesting on this line. And it said, trust, mutual respect, and effective communication are key. Trust is built on transparency. Transparency fosters open communication. Honesty creates a safe space for sharing ideas and feedback without fear. And reliability builds trust and confidence in each other's abilities to deliver. I thought those were pretty strong analogy of all this, I thought it was really good. I have, I'm sorry. Go ahead.
Oh, no, go ahead. Finish your thought.
Well, I was just going to, on the strength of relationships, prior to me doing what I'm doing now in my business now, I managed Kmart's. I was in the retail world for right out of college, and I had the honor of managing 4 different Kmart's as general store manager before I left that career. But when I went into my first Kmart, it's a small store. You're like so excited. You finally have your first store. There's I had like 28 employees. It wasn't very big. They were small, like Kresge style size. And, but I went in and I had ideas and I changed things. It's kind of like, okay, we're going to do this. We're going to do this. And they all made sense. But the problem was you don't go into a store right away and do that. Because no matter how bad the manager was before you, they still loved him, and so that was a very valuable lesson I learned about how important it was. You've got to build relationships with people first before you start making things that might make it a better environment, kind of thing. And as time went on, I learned that very quickly in that first store. As time went on, I also learned that, and somebody told me this one time, like when you go on vacation and you leave that store, that's when you find out truly how respected you are and how good of a leader you are, on how well the store runs when you're not there. And I thought, I mean, the first couple times it was like you always had more work when you come back, you know, but then it was like, oh my gosh, it's so true, So again, having those good relationships and open relationships makes a difference.
I know circling back to your slides, you talked about writing thank you letters and written correspondence. But what are some other daily habits or practices that can strengthen these relationships?
Um, Again, I think talking to people and being genuine, giving them the opportunity and listen. We the human race have a hard time listening because we automatically, when we're listening to somebody, we're trying to figure out a solution. And when we're doing that, we're not listening. We're really not. We're kind of bypassing what that really is going on with that person. The more you can listen, the more you can ask questions, it's going to be better divine. So I think that, and I think encouraging feedback, finding ways that you accept feedback, whether or not it's something you want or not. But if people know that they can do that, I think that's a great habit. And be consistent. Be consistent with your people, be consistent with how you react to them. They all have to be the same.
I know you mentioned about managing Kmart. Can you provide some examples of how strong relationships have positively impacted your professional life?
Well, I will say that probably one of the biggest ones is, people know if they're looking for somebody or they want a connection with somebody, they will call me. They will, because I've gotten such a big network of people through these relationships I have with them. They know they can trust that what I give them is like, whether it works out or not, I'm a resource for them. I'm always asked to be on committees. I've reached a point in my life, though, it's kind of like I'm learning to say no, because you can't do everything. I do believe that, I've been nominated for certain things, not to pat myself on the back, but I do get, I'm recognized in the community for the different philanthropy and that type of a thing. And I've only lived in this area for 20 years. I know that doesn't sound like much, but it's the law. I moved around a lot. When I was with Kmart, we barely stayed in the city more than 5 years. And then moved on to somewhere else. So in this area, being here 20 years and being a part of the community tells me the relationships that I've been able to build over the years have been strong ones. And, and with the business that I have with, the promptings and sending cards, I don't go anywhere without somebody coming up and acknowledging it and telling me what a difference I made in their day, what a difference I made in their life, and how much they appreciated that. And sometimes when people say that to me, it's like, what did I send them? Because I just do it naturally, I just do it all the time. And it's just, I'm always wanting to celebrate and congratulate people and being a part of their happy world.
And one last question for you, since we've talked a lot about your professional life, how do personal and professional relationships differ in terms of their impact in management?
Well, probably the biggest thing is you got to separate them. It's your personal life. I like to categorize it as being emotion, and your professional life is empathy. I mean, it's just, you got to keep it separate. When you start combining the two, you put yourself in a position of number one, losing trust in other people, because people can pick it up. I don't care what you do. People are going to pick up that kind of, a different kind of a relationship going on, kind of thing. And then plus, then you could be forced with mistreating people, treating people differently, because of the personal versus the business. And again, my first Kmart, I'm telling you, I wanted to be friends with all my managers and assistant managers, and I wanted to go and do things with them and stuff like that. And it becomes a problem. It becomes a problem on a lot of levels. So it's, as hard as it is, it's got to be kept separated, because you got to treat everybody equally. And when your emotions are involved, sometimes you can't do that. You just can't.
These are some great words, and thank you so much for all these insights, Joy. I think our viewers will find them very valuable, as I know I have, and I believe Angie has, because she's been nodding right along with me. That's right. That's right. No, that's good stuff. So that being said, thanks, Angie. And I'd like to thank our guest, Joy Klohonatz, for being with us today. Also, a special thanks to Dr. Angie Milliron, Joanne Hunt, who helped set up today's presentation, and our producer, Eric Merrill. For Distance Dialogue, I am Dr. Lee Silverman. Thank you for joining us.
Thank you.